Hey guys, welcome back to Professional Weekenders YouTube channel. Today we're here at home and we're recently returned from our 5-night cruise aboard Margaritaville at Sea Islander. And today we're going to talk about what we liked about that cruise ship as well as what we maybe didn't like so much. So if you want to know what it's like on board, then you're in the right place. Make sure you stick around, check it out, hit that subscribe button, and let's go.
Let's go. Alright guys, so like Lewis said, we're here at home today and we want to kind of give you guys our thoughts around our most recent cruise where we were cruising out of Tampa on the Margaritaville at Sea Islander. Now with that, we did have a slight impact to our cruise because of the hurricanes.
Okay, so originally we were booked to sail the week that Hurricane Helene hit. We opted to push back our cruise by 1 week, so we kind of sailed between Helene and Milton. Unfortunately, because of that, the port was closed for a few days. There was a bit of a backlog getting out of the port, and because of that, our cruise was actually cut short by 1 day. So what should have been a 5-day cruise ended up being a 4-day cruise, and they cut out the entire port of Key West.
Yeah.
Not really a huge deal, especially in the grand scheme of things. I know that these two hurricanes have been a massive impact to Florida and really the entire East Coast, and our thoughts and hearts go out to everybody that's impacted by those. So missing 1 day off of our cruise in the grand scheme of things is not that big a deal.
Right.
And it honestly did not impact our enjoyment of the cruise either. So we still had a really great time, just one less day.
So with that, we booked a lake view balcony and cabin, and I think that was one of the bucket list items for Lewis. We had a really great time in that room, really great view, and we'll put some footage in here where Lewis was geeking out as we went over the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. So if you ever have been to Tampa, that big bridge that connects the peninsula to the mainland, it's like a big thing, right? So we had a good time hanging out in that room.
Who was geeking out?
You were geeking out.
You were the one. Oh my God, it's here.
Yeah, well, you wanted to see it.
Okay. Enough of that. Let's talk about what we liked about the ship and maybe what we didn't like about the ship. First thing that I really liked about the ship is I think it was just the right size. So it is a little bit of an older ship. It was built in the year 2000, so it's about 24 years old or so. But it's not a massive ship like some of the newer ones. But it's also not super tiny either. So there's still plenty to keep you entertained, plenty to do. You never really felt bored on board, but you also felt like we had enough time to explore everything, to do everything, and we don't feel like we left anything on the table.
Yeah. I would agree with that, and I think traveling when we went in that end of September, start of October time frame, I think the ship was only at like what 60% capacity, so there definitely felt like there was less people. So maybe consider that whenever you go to book your cruise, in terms of when you want to go. Are you more interested in going during those high, travel peak periods like during the summer, or if you can maybe book it for a few months later, maybe there's less people on board.
And absolutely, and that's point number 2 is the capacity of the ship. We're at 60% capacity. And I felt like oftentimes we walk into a room and it was relatively empty for a cruise ship. It wasn't that hard to find little nooks and crannies for us to be alone by ourselves, have some peace and quiet time. But what I really loved was that there was no wait for the elevators. The elevators were so fast. They were there all the time. And most of the time we had a private elevator to ourselves too. Yeah. We've been on so many Royal Caribbean ships where the elevators take forever. You got to cram in there with 20 other people. And so I really like that about this ship, that we didn't have to wait for nearly anything.
Yeah, and on our first sea day, it was 6 o'clock and we were playing putt-putt up on deck 12, and we looked, and over the pool deck, there was nobody there. So I think that's something to consider. If you don't want to go with a lot of crowds, maybe considering booking somewhere during the off season. All right, so one of the next things we wanted to talk about is actually the pizza on this cruise ship. So we've been on a couple cruise ships before where the pizza wasn't that great. So most recently,
MSC.
Yeah, it was not. You'd think an Italian cruise line would have really good pizza, but it just not quite there. That's all that to be said. So Frank and Lilla's on the Margaritaville at Sea Islander was really good. So highly recommend that.
Yeah, it was honestly some of the best pizza that we've had on board any of the cruise ships, and we've sailed with many of the main lines. I know that they all take pride in their pizza game, but I can tell you, for whatever reason, Margaritaville Islander is putting the other ones to shame. And honestly, I thought it was some of the best pizza that we've eaten on board a cruise ship. So next up, one of the things that I really liked too about Margaritaville at Sea Islander is that there is no art show. I don't get this on some of the larger cruise ships. You have so much space, and then they dedicate a big part of that to an art gallery, to art shows, or trying to get people in there to buy prints. I don't understand it at all. The cost of the prints are insane. it feels like it's just a waste of space, a waste of time to me. I don't get it at all. So I really appreciate that they didn't bother with any of that nonsense here on Margaritaville at Sea Islander.
So comment down below if you've ever purchased art on a cruise ship, and what piece did you purchase, and did you think it was a good value? So
is it even really art if it's just a print?
I mean, we have prints.
It's not an original.
That's a print.
Yeah, and that's why we got it for like $25 at TJ Maxx.
Okay, fine. And the next thing is, whenever we got back to mainland Florida at Port Tampa, disembarkation was pretty easy, all things considered. So they still call you by sections, and you still can get off the boat, with your section. And maybe it's different because we were only at 60% capacity, but we didn't feel super rushed. But we also felt like we could get off the boat pretty quickly and easily, as compared to whenever we were last on our MSC cruise in January of 2023. It was a cluster trying to get off the MSC cruise.
Yeah, on MSC, the line wrapped around the entire boat, like the entire deck.
Yeah.
No joke, we waited in that line for over an hour.
Right.
But with Margaritaville at Sea, I felt like everything went really smooth. When we decided that we finally wanted to leave, we were off the boat.
Like 20 minutes.
Yeah, we walked right out. There was maybe one person in line ahead of us. Like it wasn't much of a line at all.
Yeah.
And so I really smooth, really quick, really liked that.
Yeah. So we were off the boat and back to the car, where we parked off-site in less than a half hour.
Yeah. And that includes the shuttle bus.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Funny enough, even though this was a Margaritaville at Sea, sort of type of Jimmy Buffett vibe, I don't think we were like smacked across the face with Jimmy Buffett all day, every day, all the time. Now, there were obviously tributes and things peppered in, like the names of the different the ship decks were about Jimmy Buffett songs. All of the, places to eat were framed around that, as compared to their other ship, Paradise, that goes out of West Palm Beach. It was a much different experience. So with that ship, we were not able to get away from all the Jimmy Buffett music and everything else like that. So all things considered, I think this ship is much better themed, and I think they care a little bit more about the experience for those who may not be total parrot heads.
Right, yeah, and we're not Jimmy Buffett haters by any means.
No, of course not.
We're just not super big fans either. And after riding on Paradise for 2 days, I felt like it was 5 o'clock all the time in my head.
My ears were bleeding.
Because it was constantly playing. But at least here they kind of toned it down a little bit. And there is still quite a bit of Jimmy Buffett stuff to keep those parrot heads entertained and lots of little nuances and things that kind of reference back to it, but not so much that it's overwhelming. And so I really do appreciate that. Yeah. And speaking of Jimmy Buffett, one of the final things that we liked about Margaritaville at Sea Islander was I thought it was super cool that they had this secret hidden room, the speakeasy, with the Jimmy Buffett memorabilia in there. So it was kind of like a small, maybe Hard Rock Cafe, but it was kind of just neat that there was a secret area that, like you only know it's there if you know, kind of thing. Now, granted, we didn't actually go in and like experience the full-on vibe, and that's because that was the first thing that we didn't like about Margaritaville at Sea. Yeah. So, and if you wanted to go inside and experience the full vibe of that speakeasy, you had to purchase tickets to that speakeasy, and they're quite expensive. They're $59 per person. Yeah. That gets you 1 hour in that room. Also comes with 3 cocktails. Now, since
you have to be chugging your cocktails to get 3 in an hour.
I don't know. Back in college, we can put those down. But since we don't drink now, really that means nothing to us. Right. And so because of that, we're not going to spend $60 to go sit in a secret room. But luckily, one of the crew members was kind enough to open up the door and at least let us in and take a couple quick photos. So we still got to see the room, and that was super cool. Right. And I think it was just neat how it was kind of tucked away. But yeah, that upsale of that cost, I think, was a bit exorbitant. Yeah, same. Yeah, and it probably would be nice too if they let you use your drink package again if you're drinking. I don't see why you can't use your drink package. Correct, because even if you have the drink package, the $60 is in addition to your drink package. Yeah, it should be like $10 to get in the room, and then you get to use 3 of your drinks or something. Cover charge. Yeah. Anyways. So one of the things I didn't necessarily like about the cruise ship is that what was served in the main dining room was also served at the buffet. So if you didn't like dinner, it's not like you could go to the buffet and really try something else. Now, of course, the buffet had a couple of other options in terms of like maybe a soup or a different type of salad or something like that. But what was served for dinner was dinner. So if you were tired of eating cheeseburger in paradise or pizza, you were kind of SOL for most meals. And with that, the next thing that I didn't like about it too is I thought that the buffet was relatively small. Now the area that the buffet takes up is standard size, but there's really only like two buffet lines there, and they're basically serving the same exact thing. I feel like even on Paradise, the buffet was a lot larger, that it seemed to go on for much further.
I do think that the food was better on this ship than it was in Paradise. Yeah.
Well, anyways, we're giving a little bit away because that's going to be our next video where we'll actually compare Islander to Paradise. So make sure you hit that subscribe button if you want to see that video. And so while we're on the topic of food and the buffet, let's talk about those ice machines. I felt like using the ice machine was the equivalent to going to the casino. It was like playing... I
didn't experience this problem the entire... We're on the same boat.
Yeah, it was like playing the slots, I swear. And I've got some footage, we'll put that in now, of trying to get ice out of this thing. Sometimes you get nothing, sometimes you get 2 cubes, sometimes you get a whole cupful. You hit the jackpot. Lucky you. But most of the time it was a pain. It never seemed to work. Ice machines were terrible. They do have some newer ones kind of more in the center of the buffet. I'd recommend using those.
Maybe
Put the older ones on the outsides.
Maybe those are the ones that I use. I never had a problem getting ice.
I always had a problem. Every time. It was a mess.
Literally. Oh, you poor thing.
Moving on.
Yeah, so and one thing I noticed about this ship, and very similar to our MSC cruise as well, is that on other ships like Royal or Norwegian, somebody is at that buffet door with like washy, here's some hand sanitizer, right? Like it wasn't necessarily a thing. Now I did see the hand washing station as you walked into the buffet from like the pool decks, but no one was there like making sure you were being a grown up and washing your hands. Which, let's face it, I'm pretty sure those things did not get used by anybody other than maybe a handful of us the entire time we were there, right? So please, folks, don't be gross, wash your hands.
Yeah, absolutely. The one set of sinks that you're talking about, is literally one sink on either side versus like Royal Caribbean, they'll have like 6 sinks.
Yeah.
And then if you come in from the other side, there's just a hand sanitizer station, which is kind of off to the side. And I guarantee most people did not use either of those. And so I think it's probably only a matter of time until they have some sort of major
like Legionnaire's
outbreak.
disease or something.
Yeah. So the hygiene there leaves a little bit to be desired. And I do really appreciate that from some of the more premium lines where they force people to wash their hands as you enter the buffet.
Yeah, for sure. So the next thing on our list is that we seem to notice that a lot of things kind of rolled up shop pretty early in the day, right? So a lot of like the main dining room closed at 9, the buffet shortly thereafter, and then there were some places where they serve late, right? But I think what that was more of the bars, less of the food options.
Yeah,
so
the pizza was open late. The burgers in Paradise were done by 6 p.m. So hope you want an early dinner if you want a burger for dinner. Right,
and then considering like with Cozumel, the one port that we were able to get to, we had to be back on the boat by 4 o'clock. So by the time you get back to the boat, get to your room, get showered, get changed, get dressed, it's 6, and you're like, oh crap, we got it, whatever. So we tend to be late eaters anyway, and we always pick the latest option for our meals on other cruise ships. And I think with that, anytime dining is great, but like I don't think we have the option to really truly have it anytime dining.
Yeah, absolutely. Did seem like a lot of things kind of closed up early. Next up on the list of things that we didn't like was the embarkation process.
Yeah.
So we did a whole video on tips and tricks, and we'll link that in the description below if you want to see the full experience and know everything about where to go, where to park, when to get there. All that information is available in that video. But we will just kind of briefly mention it here. Since we talked about debarkation, embarkation was a bit more of a mess. Now that could be because things were delayed. We were delayed a day. We were delayed several hours on that day because of the storms and things that probably pushed things back. But it did seem like we were out there standing in the heat for quite a while. And so definitely would recommend when they say what time to show up, don't try to show up any earlier. Just kind of hoping that maybe if you show up a little early, they would just put you in the line and keep moving. No, you're stuck out in a corral.
Yeah, in the heat.
Yeah. Just baking and sweating and not a great time. And then even once you get inside, it was kind of more of a fluid situation. There wasn't really a solid line, and it was kind of a bit hectic. Oh, and then we had to get our photo taken twice.
Yeah, that was weird. Yeah, so definitely check out that video because it's if you are somebody who likes to know where you're going before you get to the place. Hi, that's me. Definitely check out that video so we kind of give you the step-by-step of what to do, where to go, what to look out for, what to maybe avoid whenever you get to the port, things like that. And the final thing on our list of things we didn't like was the app, mostly the lack of. Yeah. So if you've been on
Royal Caribbean, NCL, that sort of thing, you kind of get to used to that they have an app on board where you can kind of help plan out your day and see everything that's going on, what's open now, what's going on now. With Margaritaville at Sea, none of that.
Yeah, it's that old school paper that they gave you the night before, and if you don't have your paper, you don't always know what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So they do make some announcements, but then again, you got to be in a place where you can hear it. You got to pay attention. I don't know. In today's day and age, I think we're all stuck on our phones. We all like our apps, and I would really like to see that out of a cruise ship, a cruise line. How
millennial of us, right? Like, if we're attached to our phones, what are we doing?
All right, so that wraps the things that we did like and the things that we didn't like. One honorable mention I'd say was somewhere in the middle was the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and talk about that really quick. We did order the premium Wi-Fi package. Fairly expensive, but that's kind of par for the course with any kind of cruise line now. Checked the speeds while we were on board. We got about 3 megabytes down and 1 megabyte up. So again, not super fast, but for a cruise ship, it's acceptable. It was enough. We could watch some YouTube, some Netflix, Hulu, that sort of thing, without too much of an issue. Definitely, we could surf. I found it to be fairly reliable pretty much throughout the ship. I didn't really hit very many dead spots, but I think you had a different experience.
Yeah, so I have an iPhone, he has an Android, and I know on our balcony I could not really connect to the Wi-Fi. I have an iPhone 13 Pro Max, so I know it's a little bit dated, but all that to be said, Wi-Fi is Wi-Fi, right? Like, if the door was open, I could get it. If the door was closed, I couldn't get it. And I had to log out and log back in a couple times, probably once or twice every day, right? So, all things to be considered, I could check my Instagrams, and that was probably about it.
So we're kind of
on Wi-Fi. Would I buy it again? Yes. But
because we have to, because we're millennials and we're stuck on our phones?
That part. But just something to consider. If you guys have maybe little ones who need those Bluey episodes, make sure you download those in advance to that iPad or to that cell phone.
All right, guys, so that's going to wrap up our recap of Margaritaville at Sea Islander. Let us know in the comments below what were your expectations. What did you like about the ship, or what did you not like about the ship? We'd love to hear about it from you guys as well. And with that being said, we're out of here, and we'll see you next weekend.
Bye.
We're not doing that today. So if you want to know if this is the right ship for you, then you're in the right place. Make sure you stick around and check it out. Hit that subscribe button, and let's go.
Let's go. It sounded like you said if this is the right for you.
Okay.
Sorry, we'll keep it. We're traveling during that hurricane season where, we had Hilton, or I guess Helene and Hilton come through. So with that, what did I say, Hilton?
Hilton.
Okay.
Yeah, Paris came through.
Oh gosh.
She wrecked it. Just say, and the next point that we want, the next thing that you want to talk about, how easy embarkation was.
Getting on the boat?
Or disembarkation.
Getting off the boat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that was one of the other ones. Let's talk about that first.
Okay. So cut that part out, Christine.
Yeah. You want to talk about how?
About what?
Okay.
Good job, babe. We actually did this under 20 minutes. Holy crap.
Oh, we got another one to film.
Oh, I thought we were done today. We're not done today, guys.